My dear brothers and sisters, we thank our God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the God who is love, for gathering us as a family of faith.
Selecting a new president is a significant event, but choosing a pope is an even more momentous decision, as it can significantly impact the future of the Catholic Church. Currently, Cardinal Luis Tagle's name is being widely discussed, but there are indications that this selection process may not unfold as expected, hinting at the possibility of an unexpected outcome that could surprise Catholics worldwide.
Is meant to be a narrative of hope. Rise up, and it reflects the faith journey that Pope Francis wants the youth to embark on.
The Catholic Church is facing a critical juncture where it must balance preserving its long-standing traditions and embracing necessary modernization. Cardinal Luis Tagle, a prominent figure from the Philippines, has become a powerful symbol of this internal conflict. His rise within the Vatican, with reported support from Pope Francis, reflects the aspirations of reformers who believe the Church must adapt to remain relevant in a rapidly evolving world. Cardinal Tagle's leadership has amplified concerns among traditionalists who fear losing the historic teachings of Catholicism. The Catholic Church has long been viewed as a stronghold of stability, steadfastly upholding its doctrines as the world around it constantly changes. This unwavering commitment to tradition was seen as a source of strength, providing a moral foundation for its followers. However, the modern era has brought challenges that require a more adaptable approach. Cardinal Tagle's leadership, with its emphasis on social justice, inclusivity, and compassion, resonates with many Catholics who feel disconnected from a perceived outdated church. His leadership style emphasizes humility and service, reflecting a desire to connect with people on a deeply personal level, but these changes face resistance within the Vatican. This vision is not universally accepted. Behind closed doors, there is a quiet but fierce struggle between those who support Tagle's vision of reform and those who strongly cling to the traditional identity of the Church. For the traditionalists, any significant shift towards modernity risks undermining the core principles that have sustained Catholicism for centuries. They perceive Tagle's progressive stance as a potential threat, fearing that a focus on social issues could dilute the Church's spiritual mission. Tagle's rise to prominence has not been a coincidence, as Pope Francis, whose papacy has been marked by a commitment to reform, has placed significant trust in him. Under Francis's leadership, the Church has made strides towards addressing issues such as financial corruption and the clergy abuse crisis. These reforms, while widely praised, have also faced resistance from those who prefer to maintain the traditional ways of the Church. Cardinal Tagle has encountered opposition from a conservative group within the Church who see his close association with Pope Francis as a deviation from established norms. However, Tagle's role as a key advocate for the Pope's reforms has also positioned him as a potential future Pope. While the Church is experiencing declining membership in Europe and North America, its growth in regions like Asia, Africa, and Latin America presents both opportunities and challenges. Tagle's background as an Asian leader uniquely equips him to navigate these shifting dynamics, as he comprehends the struggles of marginalized communities and has persistently advocated for greater representation of the global South within the Church. The Pope's perspective sets him apart from the traditional Vatican views, as there is a tension between reformers and traditionalists within the Church. This reflects broader social debates about the role of faith in an increasingly secular society. The need for reform in the Church is evident, as the handling of past scandals, especially the clergy abuse crisis, has left deep wounds, leading many to demand greater accountability and transparency. While Pope Francis's efforts to address these issues have been widely recognized, the task ahead remains immense. Cardinal Tagle, with his emphasis on humility and openness, is seen by many as the right leader to continue this work. His ability to connect with people from diverse backgrounds, particularly in growing Catholic communities, has made him a symbol of hope. The future of the Catholic Church will depend on its ability to navigate the tension between tradition and modernization. Cardinal Tell's leadership represents both an opportunity and a risk for the Church. If he can find the right balance, his papacy could mark a transformative moment. However, if these divisions within the Church prove too difficult to overcome, it risks further fragmentation with significant consequences for its global role. As the Church grapples with its internal divisions and evolving identity, Cardinal Tell's background background as a voice from the global south offers both hope and challenge in shaping the future of Catholicism. Born in Manila, Philippines in 1957, he entered the seminary early, showing a dedication to serving God and his community. The individual was ordained as a priest in 9082 and later earned a doctorate in theology. Their pastoral approach and academic expertise set them apart. As a theologian and educator, they engaged with deep philosophical and doctrinal topics while maintaining a strong connection to the pastoral needs of their people. This blend of intellectual rigor and pastoral empathy became a defining characteristic as they rose through the church's leadership ranks. Becoming the Archbishop of Manila, Tagle's leadership was distinguished by a keen focus on the needs of the poor and marginalized. As the Philippines, a nation with a deeply rooted Catholic culture, faces various social challenges, Tagle's response went beyond mere advocacy. The Archbishop's sermons and public addresses often emphasized the importance of a church that actively engages with the people and their daily struggles, rather than being detached from them. His insistence on social justice and the inherent worth of every human being resonated deeply with the growing Catholic population in the global south, where many countries are dealing with issues of inequality and poverty. His influence in the Vatican extends beyond his role as the Archbishop of Manila. In 2011, Pope Benedict appointed him as a cardinal, and in 2014, Pope Francis brought him into the inner circles of the Vatican by appointing him as the prefect of the congregation. The role overseeing the church's missionary work is central to the global church, allowing the person in this position to shape the direction of evangelization efforts in the developing world. Their work at the Vatican has been crucial in bringing the realities of the global south into the decision-making of the church. The Catholic Church is no longer primarily a European institution, as the center of its faith has shifted to the global south, where the Catholic population is rapidly growing in countries like Brazil, Mexico, and the Philippines. This shift is reflected in the voice of the person in this position within the Vatican, who advocates for a church that is more attuned to the realities of the developing world. One unique aspect of their leadership is the ability to offer a fresh perspective on evangelization and pastoral care. Unlike many of his counterparts in the Vatican, Tagle has directly witnessed the rapid growth of Catholicism in Asia and other regions of the global south. This growth is not just in terms of numbers, but also in the vibrancy of the faith, the dynamism of the communities, and the ways in which the church must engage with rapidly changing cultural and socio-political landscapes. Tagle's insights into the role of the church in Asia and the global south are informed by his first-hand experience in the Philippines, a predominantly Catholic nation that uniquely balances indigenous practices and Western religious traditions. This blend of religious beliefs has made the Philippines a compelling model for the church's mission in Asia. Furthermore, Tagle's role at the Vatican allows him to draw attention to the challenges faced by Catholics in the global south, such as religious persecution, the growth of secularism, and the increasing influence of new religious movements. His advocacy for the church's role in promoting human dignity, justice, and peace in these contexts has provided a crucial voice for the church's presence in regions often overlooked by the Western-centric perspectives that dominate much of the Vatican's discussions. His influence in the Vatican is not merely symbolic, but an active force that shapes the future direction of the church. His participation in key meetings and discussions has brought these critical issues to the forefront. The Catholic Church is being encouraged to take a more inclusive and worldwide approach in its activities, focusing on perspectives that are often overlooked in the West. However, as Pope Francis's health deteriorates, the question arises whether the church will be prepared for the significant leadership transition and who will emerge to guide its future. The concerns about Pope Francis's health and the urgency of succession planning have been widely reported, with details about his frequent hospitalizations and visible mobility challenges due to persistent knee pain. Pope Francis's use of a wheelchair and his challenges in participating in some public events have emphasized the realities of his aging body. While previous popes have faced health issues, it is the first time in recent history that a pontiff's health has been subject to such public attention. Pope Francis has acknowledged that his physical limitations have occasionally impacted his ability to fulfill his duties as the leader of over 1 billion Catholics worldwide as vigorously as he would prefer. The Catholic Church is facing a critical question on how to manage the limitations and challenges posed by the health of the Pope, which extends beyond personal concerns and has far-reaching implications for the Church's direction and stability. The papacy is not just a religious office, but also a symbol of continuity, unity, and guidance for the global Catholic community. However, the Pope's health struggles force the Vatican to confront the uncomfortable reality that there will come a time when the Pope can no longer fulfill his duties, either temporarily or permanently. Unfortunately, historically, the issue of papal succession has been handled discreetly, with little public discussion until the moment arises. The health issues of Pope Francis have forced an early consideration of what comes next. Previously, popes have served until their death, with the Church only taking action when absolutely necessary. However, the complexities of modern media and the interconnectedness of the global Catholic community have created new challenges regarding a papacy that is not fully functional. The traditionally discreet Vatican has had to confront the idea of succession earlier than expected, causing a sense of urgency around the future of the papacy. The discussion about Pope Francis's successor is not just about finding a leader who can manage the Church's internal matters, but also about ensuring that the global voice of Catholicism remains relevant and responsive to the diverse needs of the faithful. The rapid growth of Catholicism has made it clear that the Church is increasingly shaped by the concerns, cultures, and aspirations of the global South. The changing landscape of Catholicism has led many to believe the next pope should come from regions beyond the traditional European centers of the Church. What distinguishes Tagle from other potential papal contenders is his ability to reconcile the Church's rich traditions with the need for modern adaptation. He is deeply grounded in the Church's theological and pastoral heritage, yet recognizes the importance of reform and evolution to address contemporary challenges. Tagle has advocated for a more inclusive and globally oriented vision, speaking out on issues such as poverty, inequality, climate change, and the role of women in the Church. His international experience, including his work with the Vatican's missionary efforts and leadership within the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, equips him with the global perspective essential for guiding the Church into the future. As the world becomes increasingly secular and divided, the Church's role as a moral and spiritual guide is being tested. The next pope will face the challenging task of navigating a complex landscape where issues of social justice, climate change, and interfaith dialogue are central to the Church's mission. Cardinal Tagle's background suggests that he is uniquely equipped to tackle these challenges, and his leadership could mark a new chapter in the Church's history, one that reflects the changing realities of the world while staying true to its core mission. As Pope Francis's health brings succession into sharp focus, public reactions to Cardinal Tagle's potential papacy reveal a Church divided. Will his leadership bridge the gaps or deepen the divides within a global Catholic community? Cardinal Tagle's potential to become the next pope has sparked intense reactions, both within the Church and among the wider public. His supporters praise his compassionate and progressive approach, while critics express concerns about the direction he might take the Church. Public opinion remains divided, reflecting the complexity of his potential papacy. Tagle's supporters highlight his deep empathy, relatable leadership style, and humble demeanor, which have made him a favorite among many Catholics, particularly in the global South. His work in the Philippines, where he is widely revered as a moral and spiritual leader, has earned him admiration from those who see him as a symbol of hope and a voice for the marginalized. Tagle's focus on inclusivity and his calls for greater involvement of women in the Church's leadership have resonated with those who believe the Church should adapt. Cardinal Tagle's approach to the papacy is seen by many in the Catholic community, especially younger generations, as a chance to bring a fresh perspective and revitalize the Church's mission to serve the world. However, not everyone's reaction to Cardinal Tagle is positive. Some more conservative or traditional members of the Catholic Church express concerns about his leadership style. His advocacy for women's inclusion in the Church, particularly in leadership roles, has been a point of contention. While some view this as a progressive step, others worry it could undermine the traditional male-dominated structure of the Church, which they consider sacred and unchangeable. Pope Francis's stance on gender equality has been seen as a significant challenge to the Catholic Church's long-standing traditions and patriarchal structures. While his emphasis on issues of social justice and concern for the poor has been widely applauded by many, both within and outside the Church, his progressive views on gender equality have met with resistance from more conservative elements within the institution. The Pope's calls for greater inclusion and representation of women in the Church's leadership and decision-making processes have been viewed by some as a radical departure from the entrenched power dynamics that have historically favored men. This has led to concerns that Francis's views may be interpreted as too left-leaning, particularly in Western countries where political conservatism remains a dominant force within certain segments of the Catholic community. There are also worries that the Pope's emphasis on economic justice and his advocacy for more equitable distribution of wealth could alienate the Church's wealthier adherents, especially in Europe and North America, who may feel uneasy with a pontiff who openly champions Union's more progressive economic policies. These concerns stem from a fear that France's message could potentially undermine the support and financial contributions of influential Catholic donors and institutions, which have traditionally wielded significant influence within the Church. Furthermore, there are those who believe that the Pope's calls for systemic change and his willingness to engage with pressing social and political issues could potentially push the Church into uncharted territory of political activism, which some Catholics view as a departure from the institution's primary spiritual mission. This tension between the Church's traditional role as a moral and spiritual authority and its emerging involvement in contentious social and political debates has led to ongoing debates and divisions within the Catholic community. Francis's stance on other controversial issues, such as same-sex marriage and abortion, has also been closely scrutinized by both supporters and critics. While the Pope has not openly endorsed these causes, his open-minded and pastoral approach to addressing modern challenges has led some to speculate about the potential evolution of the Church's positions on these sensitive matters. This has further contributed to the ongoing tensions and uncertainty surrounding the direction of the Catholic Church under Francis's leadership. Overall, the Pope's progressive views on gender equality and his willingness to challenge the Church's entrenched power structures and traditional approaches have positioned him as a transformative and polarizing figure within the Catholic world, with both ardent supporters and staunch critics grappling with the implications of his leadership and vision for the future of the institution. The potential election of Cardinal Luis Tagle as the next Pope has sparked intense debate and controversy within the Catholic Church. Many conservatives, who make up a significant portion of the Church's faithful, are deeply concerned that Tagle's ascension to the papacy would lead to a shift in the Church's stance on a range of ethical issues. They fear that Tagle, known for his progressive and pastoral approach, may seek to moderate the Church's positions on matters such as abortion, same-sex marriage, and the role of women in the clergy, which would be seen as a betrayal of traditional Catholic teachings. This concern has led to a growing divide within the Church, with some viewing Tagle as a figure of much-needed renewal and others perceiving his potential papacy as a threat to the very foundations of the institution. The debate has become increasingly polarized, with both sides digging in and hardening their positions, reflecting the deep ideological rifts that have been simmering within the Church for years. Adding to the complex dynamic surrounding Tagle's candidacy is his international background as a Filipino. His rise to the papacy would represent a significant shift in the geographical balance of power within the Church, which has historically been dominated by European leaders. This prospect has generated a range of reactions both within the global North and the global South. In the global South, many view Tagle's potential papacy as a positive change, one that would better reflect the growing influence and importance of Catholicism in regions such as Asia, Africa, and Latin America. They see his election as a long overdue recognition of the diversity and dynamism of the Church worldwide, and a sign that the Vatican is finally embracing the shifting center of gravity within the faith. However, in the global North, particularly among more conservative Catholic communities, Tagle's international background has raised concerns about the potential for a loss of European cultural influence within the Church. Some fear that a non-European pope may not fully understand or appreciate the nuanced theological and liturgical traditions that have defined Catholicism for centuries, and that his leadership could lead to a further erosion of the Church's traditional identity. These divergent perspectives have contributed to a growing sense of unease and uncertainty within the broader Catholic community as they grapple with the prospect of a Tagle papacy and what it could mean for the future direction of the Church. The outcome of the next papal conclave will undoubtedly have far-reaching implications, not only for the faithful but also for the global socio-political landscape, as the Catholic Church continues to navigate the complex challenges and opportunities of the 21st century. The selection of a pope from the developing world has sparked debate and concern among some Catholics, particularly in Western nations. Certain traditionalists in Europe and North America fear that the election of Cardinal Luis Tagle as the next pontiff may signal a shift in the priorities and focus of the Catholic Church. They worry that Tagle's leadership might place greater emphasis on addressing the pressing issues affecting the global South, such as endemic poverty, social injustice, and the devastating impact of climate change, at the expense of the concerns more immediate to Catholics in the West. These traditionalists argue that Tagle, despite his impressive credentials and pastoral experience, may not not fully understand or empathize with the unique challenges facing the church in highly secularized and affluent nations. They fear that he might fail to adequately address the erosion of religious faith, the decline in church attendance, and the growing divide between the church's teachings and the lived realities of Western Catholics. Some worry that Tagle's papacy could even accelerate the marginalization of the church in parts of Europe and North America, as his focus shifts to the developing world. However, Tagle's supporters counter that the church has a moral obligation to use its global reach and influence to address the most pressing humanitarian crises of our time. They argue that poverty, inequality, and environmental degradation are not merely regional issues, but matters of universal concern that demand the attention and action of the church's leadership. Tagle, they assert, has the vision and the courage to lead the church in confronting these challenges and in fulfilling its mission to be a beacon of hope and a champion of the poor and the marginalized. Moreover, Tagle's supporters believe that his election could breathe new life into the church, inspiring a renewed commitment to social justice and a more inclusive, outward-looking approach. They see in Tagle a figure who can strike a delicate balance between honoring the church's rich traditions and adapting to the realities of the modern world. His leadership, they hope, will not only address the deep divisions within the church, but also revitalize its spiritual and moral authority on the global stage. As the conclave deliberates and the faithful await the announcement of the next pope, the debate surrounding Cardinal Luis Tagle's potential papacy continues to simmer. His rise to the throne of St. Peter represents both a challenge and a promise, a test of the church's willingness to confront its own biases and embrace a more diverse, compassionate, and globally engaged future. Please share your opinions in the comment section below. We're eager to hear your viewpoint. Remember to click the like button, subscribe, and join us for more thought-provoking discussions. Let's explore these crucial historical events and their influence on our society.